Hey everyone, welcome back to In Her Wallet podcast. I'm Sophia, your host, a Vancouver-based financial educator and founder of this show. Today we're diving into a career talk. Over the past few years, post-COVID shifts and the economic ups and downs have really shaken up the workforce in a big way. For many women, that means layoffs, career pivots, and just rebuilding confidence while figuring out what is next. I know that a lot of you might be facing this. That's why I wanted to create this episode today. And to have this conversation, I invited a special guest whose work is dedicated to supporting women through these exact transitions. Amanda Sayfy is the executive director of Dress for Success Vancouver, one of the most impactful organizations helping women find meaningful employment, build confidence, and take control of their futures. In this episode, Amanda and I talk about the biggest challenges women face in today's job market, how to navigate confidence gaps, what it really means to be financially independent, and how building a community plays a key role in long-term success. So if you are in the season of transition or are supporting someone who is, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Amanda, welcome to In Her Wallet podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here too.
So you are the executive director at Dress for Success Vancouver, and obviously it's one of the most well-known organizations out there that helps women. Can you share with us the story behind it and maybe a few things that majority of people might not know about what you do and how you support women?
Absolutely. So Dress for Success was originally founded in 1996 by a woman named Nancy Lublin, and she was based out of New York City. She had received a $5,000 inheritance from a family member, and she happened to be downtown one day sitting with her grandfather, who was a leader in business. And they were watching a number of women head in for what seemed to be interviews and then come back out. And at the time, her grandfather made the comment, "I can tell you exactly who's getting a next interview or who's getting the job and who won't." Right or wrong, the way someone presents themselves, the way that they're dressed when they're making that first impression can really open doors and opportunities for them or inhibit those opportunities. So inspired by that, Nancy founded the first Dress for Success. Shortly after, here in Vancouver in 1999, Astrid Levelt founded the first international affiliate of Dress for Success and ran programs with the support of family and friends out of a church basement off of Main Street. One of the things that's so wonderful about our organization is that our name really paints a picture for people. We think about the clothes, we think about the dressing services that we provide to our clients, but we do so much more than that now. So in our 26-year history here in Vancouver, we've grown from providing our core support of dressing services, that professional attire for women and gender diverse clients who have an interview upcoming or who have secured their first job. But now our impact has grown to also offer our Working Women's Group, which is a 6-month leadership program for women who are employed and looking to grow their careers and sustain that equitable employment. We also offer a full schedule of free workshops throughout the year. We deliver at least 30 of them to our clients and to the general public, ranging on topics from health and wellness to how to advocate for yourself to what makes an incredible resume. So our impact has grown beyond our flagship dressing services to really support women into those good jobs, supporting their income mobility, that financial independence, to allow them to thrive in every aspect of their life.
Incredible. And I mean, I've known about your flagship services for dressing women for important interviews and meetings like that, but I didn't know about the other side of their organization. And this is why I think today's conversation is so important. But just to backtrack there, so the organization started in New York, but then Vancouver became the first international chapter. Is that right?
That's correct. So 4 years after its founding in New York, our Vancouver founder, Astrid, actually saw a piece on the news. She picked up the phone, she called Nancy, and the rest is our 26-year history here in Metro Vancouver.
Look at what women are capable of creating and the ripple effect that came from that. That's just amazing. And Dress for Success is international and it exists in many cities in the US. Is that correct? And in Canada as well?
That's correct. We have about 130, maybe 140 different affiliates around the globe. So not only do we have so many different chapters across the United States, we have 13 affiliates in Canada, all the way from Halifax to Vancouver out west. But then we also have locations in Mexico, throughout Europe, in Asia as well.
Amanda, I want to ask you a little bit about yourself before we dive into our conversation about job hunting in 2025. I'm sure our listeners will appreciate getting to know you a bit more. So I know you've built a very meaningful career in the nonprofit world, and I want to ask you, what has that been like, and also what led you to your current role as an executive director at Dress for Success Vancouver?
I've worked in the nonprofit sector for almost 20 years now, and I first got into it through event management. We've all participated in a run, gone to a gala, been asked by a friend to support their efforts in support of their charity of choice. Events are a really easy, wonderful way to support the nonprofits that you care about. And it was through an events-focused opportunity that I first started working with BC Children's Hospital Foundation. And my goodness, how lucky I was to spend 9 years there. I think fundraising for kids who are unwell, experiencing an illness, a crisis for their family, is such a compelling cause. And it really allowed me to dig in and to make a difference in the healthcare sector. From there, I took on a number of different responsibilities within BC Children's and then kind of focused my efforts on major gift fundraising with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Most recently, I was VP Development and Communications with Family Services of Greater Vancouver. And my goodness, that is a special organization supporting families who are experiencing some of the biggest challenges of their lives. And I think that it was my time with Family Services that really solidified how I want to show up and make a difference in my career. That the social service sector and helping support clients, women, families who have been equity denied is something that's really values aligned for me. So now in this role with Dress for Success, I feel so fortunate to be able to pay it forward. I've had incredible mentors and professional relationships that have supported me in my journey. And this is something through Dress for Success that we really get to bring to our clients. We help them build that social capital. We help them develop their relationships that will support their professional success and allow them to thrive personally.
I mean, you as a person have such a big heart, having worked and have helped so many families and children and people in general. Thank you for highlighting your career journey. You yourself have transitioned multiple times in your career to new organizations and new roles, but also working now for Dress for Success and knowing all the resources that are available. So I'm very excited to have this conversation with you today. Let's talk about job hunting. I think looking for a job or re-entering workforce is never easy for anyone, but especially for women, we usually face a unique set of challenges. So my question to you is, what are some of the biggest hurdles from your own experience you've seen yourself face when entering workforce or re-entering workforce?
As women, we can be our own worst critics. I'm sure you've talked about imposter syndrome with guests on your podcast along the way, but there was an interview with Alona Mar shortly after the Olympics last year, where an interviewer asked her about imposter syndrome. And she said, "What are you talking about, imposter syndrome? I've worked so hard to accomplish what I have accomplished." And to hear a young woman, confident in her skills, her ability, and her right to be where she is, so refreshing. And I was so proud to hear that messaging. So I think that oftentimes we underestimate what we bring to the table. We underestimate our value and what it's worth. Work, whether it's for a nonprofit or whether it's for a bank or a law firm or whichever sector you work in, work is a value exchange. And what you're bringing to the table as a professional shouldn't be underestimated. I think that can be one of the biggest barriers, is overcoming that self-doubt and really know that you're worth it. I know that there are studies that have been done around jobs that men will apply for and whether or not they meet every single one of the qualifications on the list versus jobs that women will apply for. And women are often more likely to only apply for the jobs for which they meet every single point on the list of qualifications and skills, whereas it's been shown that men will apply for roles where they may actually be a little bit underqualified, but their confidence seems to compensate for that. So I think that in the work that we do at Dress for Success, in the women that I'm able to support in my network as well, that really would be my hope for women, that we really believe in ourselves through this and we can step back and objectively appreciate just what we bring to the table in a job hunt.
I totally agree with you. And I myself have been in the shoes where I struggle to recognize or articulate the value that I bring to the table. And I think it's obviously a journey to learn how to build that confidence when you have difficult conversations. So, do you have any tips or insights you can share with our audience on how to start building that confidence and how to start recognizing the value that you have?
I think in the context of a job search or a job negotiation, doing your homework and having the data and knowing what you're worth from a quantitative perspective helps bring that confidence to the table, right? I think that the move towards pay transparency has been a really big win from an equity standpoint. When you know what other people are making, when you know what other jobs are offering salary-wise, you can be a lot more confident in asking for what you truly deserve, right? You're coming with the facts, you're coming with data, you're coming with your research, and that it's really hard to deny that position when you have good knowledge of really what you deserve in the market.
That's a great tip. Amanda, besides recognizing the value and that confidence piece, are there any other common mistakes or missteps you have seen women make in general in the job search process? And maybe a few words about how those can be avoided.
Two thoughts on that. So one is not to ever underestimate the power of your connections. We're all on LinkedIn. We all have a lot of connections, some that we're a lot closer to than others. One thing that's been really beautiful in coming into the Dress for Success community is seeing the willingness of women to support one another. It doesn't take a lot of time out of someone's day to make that referral or to flag for a hiring manager that someone that you know, someone who is a good fit for the position, is applying. Now in this day and age of AI and applicant tracking software, it's really hard to get your resume to the top of that pile. And so much is still relationship based in the professional world. I guess my advice would be not to hesitate, not to be shy, to ask for someone to put in that good word for you. And beyond that, to help you securing that job. So there's being a champion for others, and then there's that true sponsorship where you really are kind of promoting them in your sector. The other piece that I would mention in response to this question is to leverage AI in your application. So for better or worse, we now have AI that can support us developing applications. It can help you tailor a cover letter to the position. It can ensure that you don't have any small typos that some people still really do care about. So I think that using the tools that you have available to you can help you develop applications that really are the right fit for the job posting. The one word of caution that I will offer is oftentimes you can tell when specific wording or criteria from a job posting are pulled directly into that cover. I would say to start with AI and then still make it your own in order to stand out to hiring managers.
I totally agree with you. I cannot imagine how we used to live without AI. I mean, it's only been a year and a half since we really started using it actively in everyday life. But I remember back when I was a student at UBC in my first or second year, and I was trying to make my resume, and it would take me like 3, 4, 5 days. And now you have AI that can literally help you do it. It's a great starting point, and everyone should totally try to leverage it in their job hunting process. Back to your point about networking and power of personal relationships. What if someone is listening to us right now and feels like they do not know the right people who they can ask to vouch for them? What advice do you have for them?
We have the benefit here in Vancouver of living in a metropolitan center that has a lot going on. So there are different ways to connect to your community and to connect to new communities through a number of different associations or programs. So I'll go back to the example of our working women's group here at Dress for Success. It may start with participation in a 6-month cohort with 40 other individuals, but there is a network of 40 plus different cohorts that comes together through our WWG alumni. There is also the opportunity to get involved in sector-specific associations. I grew my career as a fundraiser, and I was very very fortunate to be connected to the Association of Fundraising Professionals as an example. And it's absolutely been through those connections that I've been able to grow my career thanks to relationships.
I noticed on your website you have employment retention programs and the career development programs. So is that the 6 months leadership cohort that you mentioned, or is that something different?
We have a few different programs that contribute to those impacts for our clients. So absolutely, the Working Women's Group would be the biggest one there. One of the criteria for the program is that you're working a minimum of 20 hours per week. So these are clients who are indeed in the workforce and are motivated to grow their careers and to reach their potential. Also in support of that career growth and that sustained development are our workshop. When you think about what helps someone retain their employment, what helps them be successful, it goes beyond just securing that job. It's about advocating for yourself in your role and within your company. It's about learning how to have difficult conversations or how to navigate conflict with the workplace. It's also about learning how to take care of yourself to ensure that you're not burning out and having to remove yourself from the workforce even for a temporary amount of time. So that's kind of where workshops come in.
Wow, so many incredible initiatives. I don't know how come I've never participated in your programs. So can anyone register, or do you have to meet any certain criteria? Is it paid? Is it complimentary? What's the setup there?
All of our programs are completely free. Inclusion is one of our core values as an organization, so they are all free. Other than being a working woman or gender diverse individual who is employed a minimum of 20 hours per week, our workshops are available to anyone and everyone. So they're publicly available. Most of them are delivered online to allow for that accessibility.
Amanda, you mentioned something in one of your answers that really caught my attention, and I want to go back to that. You said the word sponsorship, and I know it's a concept that might be well known in corporate world, but for someone who might not have heard of sponsorship before, what does that look like when it comes to networking and mentorship?
It's a relatively new concept. It doesn't just apply to women supporting women. It also applies to those allies that we have in our networks who really do have the power to help us succeed. Whereas mentorship is providing guidance, providing advice, providing support, sponsorship is where you're really endorsing a candidate. You're sticking your neck out and you're vouching for an individual. You may be able to promote them yourself, or you may provide that reference or make that connection on their behalf that will help them grow their career and help them be successful. So it's about moving from an advisor position, moving from modeling between mentors and mentees to actively supporting an individual who is in your network, someone who you believe in and someone who deserves that chance. One of the ways that we measure success in our programming is how we are able to give our clients the same access to measures of success as someone who hasn't experienced so many intersecting barriers in their life. One of the ways we can do that is by playing an active role in that social capital development and how they're navigating their career growth.
And in order for someone to have a relationship like that, I assume there should be a long history of knowing each other, a lot of trust built in. Do you have any tips on how they can start developing a relationship like that?
Oftentimes, we may be shy to reach out to ask for that sponsorship, but we may be humble in how we celebrate or how we share our success as well. And I think that it's becoming more commonplace, as it should be, for us to be celebrating our success with our networks and taking that credit where credit is due. This is something I've had to work hard on. When someone pays you a compliment, just saying thank you, not saying, oh, no, I didn't really do that much to make this happen, or it's just, I'm just doing my job. No, you say thank you and own the success that you have in your career. So not being shy about sharing where you've been successful, sharing your accomplishments, just even in the day-to-day, helps people see the value that you bring and makes it a lot easier for them to make those recommendations and to see your value for themselves.
Amanda, I think that's a great entryway into the next question that I wanted to ask you. I think salary negotiations in the job hunting process is a very big part of it. And oftentimes, again, we fear being seen too much. Do you have any advice in the area of salary negotiation for women?
I think it goes back to knowing your worth and doing your homework. Again, salary transparency is something that really supports us as women in any active job search, knowing what other roles are paying, speaking to other individuals, men and women, right? We can't just compare our salaries among women and expect to see that equity with our male counterpart. I think that normalizing, talking about what we're making, it's very uncomfortable for a lot of people, but it really will help drive that confidence in negotiating for yourself and really knowing your worth. I think too, recognizing that it's much easier to negotiate your salary when you are first hired for the job. It is far harder to negotiate an increase when you're already with the company or organization. Really leveraging that initial opportunity when you are being offered the job is something that is very important.
Does Dress for Success provide any go-to scripts for women that they can use, or maybe some mindset shifts that they can apply to feel more confident in that process?
We have offered workshops presented by our fabulous volunteers that are centered around salary negotiation. Absolutely, we supported our community with some of those tools and resources, but I don't know if we have a go-to guide that is at the ready.
That's a great idea
It
for
is.
future resources that
Absolutely.
you might be
Yeah.
creating. Amanda, I know that you are a licensed fundraiser, which I was so excited to learn about. I've never met someone before who is a licensed fundraiser. Can you share a few things about what that means and how that translates to your day-to-day life and maybe how that helps you in your career?
So I am a certified fundraising executive. It's the CFRE designation. And I think one of the reasons it's important within the nonprofit sector is that it signals that this is indeed a professional career to pursue. I think that in old model of philanthropy and supporting nonprofits, the expectation is that individuals are oftentimes working because it is so mission driven for them, because they want to make a difference. But in professionalizing the sector, there's the recognition that we're bringing really important value to the table. And this is a more technical profession than just doing good. The designation itself is available to fundraisers who have worked 5 or more years. There's a pretty rigorous list of deliverables that you need to keep track of even before they let you write the exam, which gets offered a few times a year that you would write the exam. But you have to have certain educational accomplishments. You have to have raised a certain number of dollars. You have to be participating in ongoing professional development. There's a long list, and that list needs to be met with every renewal of the designation. Again, I think not that it levels the playing field, but it is an opportunity for recognition that this is indeed a professional career to pursue and to grow within the greater nonprofit impact.
I really like how it's a skill that you can carry forward with you no matter which direction life takes you, whether you're going to be working for a non-for-profit or not. But it's really that tool in your toolbox that can help you in so many different areas of life, including salary negotiations potentially. Amanda, talking about career transitions, I wanted to ask you, obviously Dress for Success helps a lot of women transition in their careers. What are some of the main ingredients that help women do so successfully?
I'll go back to that social capital. Having a network of allies and champions for you and your success makes a really big difference. Really knowing, truly knowing what you're good at and what value you bring to the table, as we discussed earlier, is something very, very important. About 80% of the clients we serve are newcomers to Canada within the last 5 years. Other clients of ours are survivors of gender-based violence and maybe leave a relationship and heading back into the workforce for the first time in a number of years. Trying to figure out what your fit is, what value you bring, and how you can leverage that in this next step in your career is something that's really important. I know we have a workshop coming up later this week, actually, by my friend Greg Taylor, that's all about how to leverage the skills that you already have. You don't necessarily have to go back to school. You don't necessarily have to reinvent yourself and what you bring to the table. I think starting with recognizing what those transferable skills are that you have and how that translates into a successful career is a good starting point.
This is really good. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about financial independence. I know that it's a common value that both In Her Wallet and Dress for Success share in helping women achieve that. Why do you think financial independence is more than just having enough money in your bank account?
Financial independence gives you choice. It gives you choice and it gives you freedom in your life. Going beyond just making ends meet and being in a constant churn of survival, oh my goodness, helps you regulate your nervous system that allows you to make better decisions. As an example, I truly believe that as women, we need that. Even as a part, it changes the dynamic when a woman is financially independent in her relationship. And it really creates the freedom of choice for women to be able to create the lives that they want.
I am sure you guys work with women in helping them go from survival mode to a place where they feel fulfilled and they thrive. And maybe there are some examples or cases that you can share with our audience that can really illustrate how you guys do that.
I'll share the stories of two fabulous ambassadors that we have working with us. So last year at our Success Luncheon, our Inspiration Award winner was Buki Adwi, and she is a VP with Aritzia. She shared the story of arriving to Canada from Nigeria via South Africa and landing in Alberta, where she didn't have community and connection, and what a difference it made for her to connect with community through Dress for Success when she arrived to the Lower Mainland with her family. In the middle of COVID, I might add. So you can only imagine being in a relatively new country, in a new city, and then being in the middle of a pandemic as well. But Buki speaks to the power of connection, and that connection really helping her see possibility for herself. Our Toronto affiliate, their recent fundraising event was called The Power of Possibility. And isn't that a beautiful thing? Sometimes it takes others seeing that in yourself and holding space for you before you can see that for yourself and really go for it. Really know your value and really embrace those next steps in your career. Just last week, we had our annual volunteer appreciation event, and we had a fabulous ambassador named Ruki, who's just done her MBA, but also came to Canada from Nigeria. And she spoke to the relationship with her mentor and how meeting her mentor, working with her mentor was a game changer for her to really, again, see that possibility for herself. It's those connections that we create at Dress for Success. It's being able to hold space for women who are in transition that gives them the time to foster that confidence and see those possibilities for themselves.
I had goosebumps when you were telling the story about Buki who
Oh,
came to Canada in
oh,
person.
she's
Now
so
she's a VP
impressive.
at Aritzia.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
just an
That's very
incredible
impressive.
individual, and we're really lucky to have her as a member of our community.
Amanda, speaking of becoming a member or in general just getting involved with Just for Success Vancouver, how can our listeners do that?
There's so many different ways to get involved with our organization. It's something that as an executive director, I'm really grateful for. So as an individual, we have so many different volunteer opportunities as volunteer stylists in our boutique, helping us sort clothes. We have admin volunteers in our office 5 days a week, helping follow up with clients to book their appointments. We also have a fabulous opportunity for mentorship through working women's groups. So every single participant in each of our 3 annual cohorts is paired with a mentor for 6 months. And this is a great opportunity to make a direct difference for someone. We also have the opportunity to volunteer with us for our Success Luncheon. As an example, we are a nonprofit that operates without core government funding. Everything we do is made possible by our fundraising. So we do have a committee of volunteers that is helping us make our Success Luncheon a success in November of this year. Last but not least, we do have the opportunity to make a difference as a donor. One of the ways you can do that is as a monthly donor, making that recurring gift that provides dependable support for our organization that beyond the impact our volunteers make, help us keep our lights on, help us pay our rent, help us pay our incredible staff members along the way.
So many incredible ways to get involved with the organization. Amanda, one last thing I want to ask you before we wrap things up. If someone is listening right now who's in the process of job hunting, but they are feeling discouraged, what's one thing you would want them to hear?
I think that from the beginning of time, women have proven just how resilient we are. And it's tough right now. It's a tough job market. There have been a number of layoffs and there's a lot of economic uncertainty. So I think just instilling in them that the right opportunity will come, that they are worthy of the right opportunity, that it's only a matter of time until that right opportunity is offered to them, and to just keep in mind how powerful and how resilient women are. That it might be hard right now, but the right fit is coming your way, and to just keep moving, keep building your network, keep upskilling. Keep the faith, the belief in the value that you bring.
Beautiful message. Amanda, thank you so much for being with me today and for sharing the wealth of knowledge that you did and the experience.
It's been so fun, Sophia. Thank you very much for having me, and thanks for your support of Dress for Success.
Thank you for tuning into In Her Wallet. If today's episode inspired you or gave you a new perspective, it would mean so much to me if you followed us on your podcasting platform of choice, shared this episode with your friends, and left a 5-star rating and review. I want this episode to serve as a reminder that you're not alone in your financial journey. This podcast is your guide to financial success, equipping you to live your best life without sacrificing your financial future. It was Sophia with you this Wednesday, and I will see you next week.